Things really look like they're moving in the right direction for sports as far as getting them back up to speed and back to having events. And while I'll have to go this summer without being able to watch the CFL, which of course is disappointing, it's nice to see some of these events coming back, especially with the NFL on track to start on time in the fall, even if it means no fans in attendance. But with such a weird summer and the likelihood that if you participate in any sports leagues, they've probably been canceled or postponed, and maybe some of your favorite sports just aren't the same or aren't even ongoing right now, I wanted to recommend something else, which I'm a huge advocate for, and that's disc golf. For the uninitiated, disc golf is a lot like regular golf in the fact that you're trying to throw a disc into a basket, as opposed in traditional golf where you would try to hit a little ball into a hole in the ground. So outside of that, they're relatively similar in design. You're just trying to get the lowest score possible on every hole. And a lot like a free-to-play game, disc golf is traditionally free to play. The courses are normally set up at public parks. Truly all you need to get started are some discs, or as some people call them, frisbees. Now they're technically not frisbees. A frisbee is a toy that Whammo makes. That's a copyrighted term. Because of that, the sport is generically called disc golf because Whammo doesn't make any of the discs. Thus, none of the discs that are used in the game are truly quote-unquote frisbees. Now, Innova and some of the other more popular brands sell starter packs that oftentimes include 3 discs for something like $20 or $25. By picking up a starter pack, which I really do think the Innova one in particular comes with some very beginner-friendly discs, and they cover all the criteria you really need in order to get playing. You're going to have a putter, a mid-range, and a driver. Now, it's a shorter distance driver than, say, a professional would use, but if you're a new player, you're going to want to use a shorter distance driver until you get the mechanics of throwing down. So for just $20, you can really get started playing courses in your area. So I'm actually going to have a link down in the description to find courses locally if you're not aware of any that may be near you. So outside of being a fun sport to play and something that probably has a club in your area, if you have a course, there's probably a club or a league you could participate in, which probably is ongoing despite this because it's an easy game to play despite the social distancing guidelines. There's plenty of great coverage out there of professional disc golf, which because the World Tour was canceled this year, there may not be a ton of real high-tier disc golf actually being played in terms of like the big, huge tournaments. But nonetheless, I'm hopeful there'll be some new content that will come out this year with some of the tournaments that do happen. Regardless, because you're probably new to the sport and you're not aware of any of the past tournaments, I highly recommend checking out the whole 2019 season, or even older if you want to. There's really 2 good channels on YouTube which I've been playing clips from as we speak here, and that's Jomez Productions and Central Coast Disc Golf. They both air different tournaments and different events. Now, the production quality that these guys have for events is absolute top tier. When you're watching this with the graphics, the overlays, whatnot, everything they got going on, you really would be fooled into thinking it was like an ESPN broadcast or something because it's so top-notch how they have it put together. The commentary on these broadcasts are great, and I can't, even begin to say enough about just how good Jomez and Central Coast Disc Golf's productions are. So if you want to watch some of the older competitions, say from the 2019 season or even older, there's been a high level of production quality, I would say, for the past 5 years on those channels. I think that's a great opportunity to get an idea of kind of how the game works, though. If you're familiar at all with golf, you'll pick it up right away. And maybe you live in a community where you're very aware that there's a course, but you've seen people out there cranking out 400-500-foot throws, and you don't think in driving by that you could possibly compete with those people, and you don't want to be caught dead looking like a fool or a noob out there with a starter pack. I'm going to tell you, really honestly, don't worry about it. I think if you go on Reddit and you go on r/disc golf, you'll very quickly get an idea of the type of community that this game has, and I think it's a very welcoming one. I think there's a lot of jokesters and a lot of helpful people in this community, and it's not the kind of community of players, at least in my area and from what I've seen on Reddit, that it's going to bash somebody for being out there and being new. I think that we want to see the sport grow. All of us as a disc golf community want to see the sport grow, and we want to see other people get into it, and we know that being welcoming to those people is definitely how we can make that happen. And if you still aren't comfortable with trying it out for the first time with a bunch of people around, go at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. There probably won't be many people or anybody there. So, that's a great opportunity to try it out. because these parks, I mean, they're public parks. They open at sun up, so I mean, it's not like you had to wait for somebody to be there to open up the gate for you. It's a public park, so show up whenever you want. In closing, though, I want to mention some tips I have as far as what discs to buy. You're going to notice that different discs, if you look on Infinite Discs, which is a website I'll have linked down in the description, great sort of database and also a place to find links to buy discs if you aren't able to find them at your local Walmart, which is going to be the cheapest place to probably get the starter pack as well as some other discs, or you don't have a specialty shop in your area you can go to. Check out Infinite Discs. Now you're going to notice that there's numbers on the discs. There's things like speed, turn, glide, fade. These 4 different numbers. Really the most important thing I think you want to pay attention to as a new player is speed, and that's traditionally going to be the first number listed on the disc. And you'll commonly see it written on the Innova discs themselves. Other brands like Prodigy may not actually list the numbers on there, so you have to take a look at Infinite Discs in order to see the numbers. As a new player, you're going to want to buy a disc with a speed, I would say, of 6 or 7 as your driver. Now, it does gear all the way up to 14, but as a new player, you aren't able to throw. Your arm mechanics aren't there. You can't get a disc to go speed 14. You don't have the technique down yet. I really think that a 6 or 7 speed disc is probably a great end to start at as far as your high end, as far as your driver. Now you're going to want to have a mid-range as well. This is probably going to be a speed of like 3 or 4, and most people may just be able to even get by with a mid-range. Some mid-ranges I would recommend are either Innova's Rock or the Buzz, which is a Discraft disc. Those are 2 great mid-ranges, very popular, very well known within the sport to be some of the better mid-ranges. They just are a straight flying disc and are often very beginner friendly. But as far as speed 6 or 7 discs go, as far as like a driver, because that's what everybody's really interested in, is what can I get the most distance on. Again, don't go for a high speed disc. I would recommend something like an Innova T-Bird, a Prodigy F2 potentially, or maybe even a Discraft Stalker as your first driver in order to get started there. And for a putter, I would really just choose whatever feels comfortable in your hand. Now, of course, to make this all be easier, you could just purchase, like I said, a starter pack. So Innova's comes with an AVR, which is a great putter. I even have an AVR hat. I'm a big fan of the AVR putter, but again, it's whatever feels comfortable in your hand. The mid-range in the Innova starter pack, I believe, is the Shark. And then I know that the driver in the starter pack is the Leopard. The Leopard is a great driver for beginners. Again, a speed 6, just like the T-Bird, which I recommended. So picking up that starter pack, paying $20 for 3 of them, I think is a fantastic deal. Usually the discs will run you anywhere from $9 to $18 a piece. So being able to get 3 of them for $20 is a great value, and at least the AVR, the putter, is something you can stick with for a long time, even as you continue to progress and improve, and maybe you set aside the Leopard or the Shark in exchange for something else that you feel more comfortable with down the line. So those are my recommendations as far as how to get started in disc golf, or even to start watching it right now, because I think this is going to be a big summer for the sport, a big opportunity for it to grow, just because, especially over the last month and a half here, even dating back to April, it seems like, at least at my local parks, things have gotten more busy and more people have been trying out the sport just because there aren't many other options of things to do. And I think that even as other places start to open, other amusement attractions start to become available for people to do as pastimes besides this, I think that this is going to continue to grow, and it's following this year in particular. And I would love to see some of you guys be a part of that. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Bailey, and I'll see you in the next video.